Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the South Derbyshire series, a district of Derbyshire which stretches from Leicestershire to Staffordshire, containing 50 civil parishes. Here's one of them for you. Welcome back to South Derbyshire again, folks. Anyone that tells you that Derbyshire folk are not friendly or accommodating, well, I'm afraid they're lying. I have just pulled up in this village and this place has got literally nowhere to park your car apart from this car park right here. This is actually the pub's car park, believe it or not. It is the pub's car park. And you are sort of bereft of a car park space anywhere unless you come here. And I asked the landlord of the pub over there, the John Thompson Inn, whether or not I could use the car park for about an hour to film this episode, and they said yes. So that's great, isn't it? That's our first landmark as we make our way along the River Trent towards the Anchor Church in the parish of Ingleby. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Ingleby, Farmstead of the English. This week in South Derbyshire, we're in Ingleby, one of several places with that name across the East Midlands. I'm familiar, of course, with an Ingleby. I spent the first 14 months of my life in a hamlet with that very name. It literally means the farmstead of the English, and farming is certainly the order of the day in this one. Ingleby is not a village, rather it's a hamlet, and it lies on top of a hill overlooking the Trent Valley. It has been for centuries heavily associated with nearby Milton and Foremark. Its lofty position means that in places it has some amazing views of the landscape below, especially out to the west where a public footpath runs over a steep-sided crag. The settlement itself has a few crags and outcrops along its one narrow twisty road. Landmarks are very sparse here. Aside from the historic John Thompson Inn, where I was granted an hour or so to leave my car, Ingleby has just one other public building. There is also a small art gallery too, mind you. There are no shops or any kind of amenities, and there's certainly no church. Well, that last statement is not strictly true, because on the southern bank of the old River Trent, there's a feature which calls itself a church, even though it's not. Join me as we find out what it is. This short walk through Ingleby starts at the John Thompson Inn and Brewery, the only pub in the village and one of just two buildings which could be termed public. A pub since 1968, this 15th century former farmhouse took its name from a former licensee and owner named John Thompson. I'm sure I'm not the only one though who would instantly think of this guy on hearing the name. Set in some idyllic countryside beside the banks of the Trent, the JT, as it's known to the locals, offers some great views of both the river and the neighbouring National Forest. The only other public building in Ingleby is this tiny structure set into the steep rocky outcrop to the south of the main road. I imagine this was a chapel originally, but I couldn't find anything to confirm that. On the wall, though, is a war memorial. Note how both Milton and Foremark, Ingleby's near neighbours, are also included on it. The building is also the site of the parish notice board, so let's get that job out of the way. 10 down, 40 to go. As the road continues west, rock formations appear. These ancient crags were formed millions of years ago by glacial meltwaters. Some of the caves are that close to the road you can see into them. Some, like this one, are full of water though, so I don't recommend trying to get into them. Let's head for the Trent now. Ingleby is a linear village, and this, the only residential road here, climbs uphill gently towards it. The properties along the way are generally massive farmhouses and outbuildings. Somewhere within its modest collection of buildings, though, is the Ingleby Art Gallery, which, until the pandemic a couple of years ago, held exhibitions displaying the work of various local artistic talents throughout the year. Okay, so we've reached the end of civilization. If you carry on down this road, it runs to Foremark, but there aren't really any sort of buildings or properties of any note down there, to be honest. Might be the odd isolated farmhouse or something like that, but nothing we can really get our teeth into. What we're going to do now is we're going to follow a footpath. Here's a footpath sign. That says public bridleway leading to public footpath to Anchor Church. What we're going to do here is we're going to follow the course of the old River Trent, and it'll take us to something quite magical. You'll see what I mean when we get there. This path takes you over a huge crag to the Anchor Church, by far and away the most well-known landmark in these parts. The crag is over 100 metres long and up to 12 metres high, and the church is its main feature. It's not a church at all. Rather, it's a series of interconnected caves cut from the Triassic conglomerate rock that the crag is made from. The cave is very old, having first been mentioned in records in 1648. It was created by an anchorite, which is another word for a hermit. The Anchor Church is complete with door openings and window holes, making it very unusual. To get to the cave, you have to follow the old route of the River Trent, which in itself has an interesting history. The course of the river was altered artificially so that 300 acres of land changed sides. This change of landscape was even commented upon by none other than William Shakespeare in his play Henry IV Part 1. Getting to the old River Trent, though, is a challenge, despite the presence of the footpath. Well, before I came here, I did read some online reviews that said that this is not easy to get to, and trust me, it's been really difficult. I mean, the hill, I could cope with that to a point, but once you get onto this sort of side of the river, this is very difficult to try and manoeuvre through. It's very muddy. The river has obviously burst its banks here as well. Look, you can see it's overtopped its banks there. I'm hoping I can get to the church. I'm hoping I can get to the Anchor Church. We'll soon find out. Okay, I gotta tell you, I'm not terribly sure if I'm going to be able to do this. I've kind of got a little bit stuck. You can see here, here's the old River Trent. We've now sort of joined the old River Trent. There's the current River Trent there. The path is there, look, you can see it, but I've hit a piece here where there's a very steep bank. I don't know whether I can get over this. I will try. Well, sorry folks, I just can't do it. There's just no way through, no way past that bank up there, which means Anchor Church, I'm afraid, is a big fat X. However, I will get a second bite at this, because one thing I haven't told you about the Anchor Church is that it's actually not in Ingleby's boundaries. It's actually in Foremark's boundaries, which is the parish across to the west. And you can get to it from Foremark as well. So when I eventually get round to that one, I'm going to attempt this again from the other direction. On the way back to the hamlet, I opted to film a little section while I walked to show you just how difficult this is to access. You can see the path is there, but it's perilously close to the river and it's very sludgy. I would imagine a walk from the village to the Anchor Church is best done in the summertime and not when the river is likely to flood. As I said on camera a moment ago though, I will get a second chance at this. You can park in Foremark and access the same path from the other direction. This way isn't recommended, but I tell you what, it wasn't a fruitless task. Look at these stunning views over the Trent Valley. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.